What up, y'all? It's your boy, One Sir Grove. This is the 78th episode of Casting 495 Celebrities Worldwide, C4CW. And I am your podcaster, broadcaster, host, OSGOE, One Sir Grove, a.k.a. just recently changed my rap stage name to Dr. Grover, just like Dr. Dre calls himself a doctor, but I'm not really a doctor that I recall. I'm just a rapper entertainer, and that's my rap stage name now is Dr. Grove or Dr. Grover, whichever you prefer, a.k.a. OSGOE, a.k.a. Big Grove Dog, dat nigga Grove. So, man, one of my connections, man, in the international community, he, an acquaintance of mine, he was providing me some info, man, on this trend of which I hadn't been 100% aware. I had seen some indication of it, and what it relates to is in different countries now, if you didn't know, heads up, FYI, there is a phenomenon of, there's a trend, which is the phenomenon of, by the way, I hope that you're having a blessed day, midday, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. And I sincerely appreciate you tuning in if it's your first time. Excuse me. Or if you've tuned in before. Back to this trend. There's a trend of fake food. Do you know about this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Excuse me. If you Google it, videos, you can see on YouTube, if you haven't again already, that there are these underground black market outfits. In other words, these organizations, these groups, in other words, these outfits that are manufacturing, processing, making these fake food products and then selling them either directly to customers that consume them or to third parties that then sell them to sellers and resellers. And so there are these videos that one can view where there is an egg, like an egg from a chicken, right? There's an egg where, was it Africa? Don't quote me on this. I can't remember the country. I thought it was an African dude. And he was talking about how, like, maybe it was India. Can't remember exactly. Something like that. And he says that, I mean, I could just fucking Google it right now, but I'm in the middle of a podcast, and you're probably like, well, dude, do some better research before you do the podcast and have your facts straight. Well, I saw the shit, and this is just kind of on the fly. And this is a mobile podcast, dude. I do this shit spontaneously, so I don't need to be exact all the fucking time. Nonetheless, in some country outside the U.S., there is this person in this video who is talking about this egg. And he's saying, like, look, you can, this is what an egg is supposed to do. Like an actual, fresh, legit egg. This is how it, this is how it moves, right? You put it in water. If it sinks to the bottom versus it floating, this is the case with that. And, so he takes this egg, and if I recall correctly, like, this thing was so funky, and they, like, took a flame to it, and it was, like, lit like a candle, or it was, like, impervious to heat. And it was, like, totally artificial, dude. And, but it wasn't just the egg. There's the fake rice. There's the fake, what else did they have? Was it shrimp? Something like that, man. These different types of, like, fake seafoods. And they showed how there are these clandestine shacks, like, back rooms and, like, laboratories and spaces where people are making this shit, man, and they're in these pots and like these canteens and such, and it's really fucking weird, man, and it's really fucked up that these people are doing this shit, man. And there's a whole list of these different food products that are fake food. They're not real. There's no nutritional value. And believe it or not, man, some restaurants are selling this shit, right? And people don't know that they're eating fake rice, fake fucking food. And, it says here, Fox News, watch live. President Trump holds a MAGA rally. Go Trump. Excellent. Superb. I support POTUS, President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. So these, that was just a pop-up notification, push notification. I just thought I'd share it with the audience. Some of you are probably like, fuck Donald Trump. I don't give a shit about a MAGA rally. Fuck all that shit and fuck MAGA. Yeah, I hear you, dude, but I support the president. I just saw that pop up on the device in terms of a notification. Thought I'd share it with the world. So that's not the end of it though, in terms of these fake food products. So someone I've communicated with, I was asking him about the trends in his country of origin, right? And what the current trends are like in terms of like online ordering of products. And I was explaining to him that when I was in college university studies like 15 years ago, one of the predictions was that so people used to be afraid. Like 15 years ago, people when given the ability to buy, because they couldn't before, and then there's the internet, and it's like, oh, now we can buy things on the internet. People in the beginning were afraid, largely, a lot of times, to buy and make purchases over the internet. They were just like, fuck that, man. I'm not going to order some shit over the internet. I might get scammed, dude, identity theft and all this other shit, right? So people had an aversion to buying and ordering products over the internet. There was trepidation there with some folks. They were like, nah, fuck that, dude. Like, I'll just go to a brick and mortar store to order shit. Like, fuck buying shit on the internet, right? Most of society was fearful at the time. Like, the vast majority of the population was against ordering products on the internet. And then later, at some point, later at some point is redundant, but later, the statistics were that most of products purchased, I think, in the United States, at least in the West, in the U.S. to be exact, most of all purchases made in a certain year, like in some few years back, most of the purchases made in the United States, the largest percentage of purchases made, period, like across the board, like anything that can be bought in time space, most of them were purchased online as opposed to brick and mortar retail locations. And that's why you have issues with stores like Toys R Us filing for bankruptcy or going out of business or whatever actually happened there. Sears going out of business, or, closing down stores with Kmart and Radio Shack and these different companies that were staples in the business and community of humans, business, commerce in one's town. These companies that had existed for as long as they had, that were well known, that were quite prominent, that were everywhere, in just about every city, they're now going out of business and filing for bankruptcy because rent is high and they can't afford to keep warehousing and keeping products on the shelves in stores where you need air conditioning, you need to pay utilities, electricity, for water when people come into the store and they need to use the restroom and wash their hands, the water, the fucking employees that they have to pay to keep there, just everything, the overhead to run a big ass box where you put a bunch of boxes of shit, products out on shelves, right? And then you pay people to maintain those products and those items. That shit's incredibly costly in the 21st century. So companies are like, well, fuck that then, man. Like, why even have a brick and mortar store? Like, why even have a physical location for our products? Like, if people want to buy shit, they can just buy it over the internet. So that's been happening. That's one of the issues now in the world. And so what I was asking this acquaintance of mine was, I said, well, how are people ordering products in your country? And he was saying that most of the products, like mostly, they're ordered over the internet. And so I said, well, what about, so like, are people buying like meals? Like, are they also buying their groceries? And he was like, no. He said, because companies, man, are doing, like in his country, they're doing like a glaze, like to make the food look better and using chemicals and shit and like try to make the food product look better, right? To try to make it look more appealing. And so people there, if they order something online, like grocery products online, they're opposed to doing that and would rather just see it up front themselves in a grocery store and make the decision as to whether they want to purchase it in person. So they're not buying groceries as much online, but a lot of the other things that are non-grocery items, they're buying those items on the internet. Mostly all of those purchases are done online. And because of the size of that country, it takes days as opposed to weeks. So like if somebody orders from that country here in the States, it's going to take weeks for it to get to the US, unless of course someone wants to pay a massive amount of money to have it shipped in one day. But there, if somebody orders, a lot of times it takes 2 to 3 days, he told me, for the product to come through the mail. In the US, if you order something from California or whatever, and you're on the East Coast or vice versa, shit, man, I mean, it might take 4 or 5, 7, 10 days, depending on how much you want to spend for postage. He said there takes like 2 to 3 days. So he says that delivery systems are very efficient. They're highly efficient, and someone can purchase an order to the base of a high-rise, to a residential, an urban high-rise, inner-city, metropolitan building structure, and then just pick up in lobby or in mailbox. But it was really interesting what he was saying about the situation with folks ordering groceries and having the aversion to such. Whereas in the States, people, they order from Whole Foods, fucking different stores like this company where, you buy and then it delivers. And but apparently in his country, it's not the same thing, and it's not the trend there. And so I wanted to share that with you, the audience. And notice I didn't mention the country. So, it's like 200 countries roughly on planet Earth. I didn't mention the country. But that economy of that country is closely related to the U.S. economy, and they're essentially connected. They're basically connected economies. And I just find the dynamic to be intriguing, how there it's the inverse of here in the States. People here in the States, man, they'll order groceries like online like it ain't shit, and they're just like, fuck it. Like, they don't even, it's like to them it's a no-brainer. It's like a non-issue. It's not even a thing. Whereas there in his country, it's a big deal where people don't want to do that, and they're against that notion and that idea. So very interesting geopolitical trends.